The wind was different here. I felt it the moment I stepped out of the rental car, the cold, salty breath of the Atlantic cutting through my coat like it knew me, knew I didn't belong anymore, knew I'd stayed away too long. The Marsh house stood at the top of a narrow hill, gray wood rotting at the corners, windows streaked with salt and time. Even after all these years, it hadn't changed. Still looked like it was holding its breath, waiting. I stood there for a moment, staring up at it, my suitcase forgotten beside me. The key in my hand trembled slightly, not from the wind, but from memory. This was my mother's house. Was. Now it was mine. The town of Hollow Bay had sent a polite letter. Condolences on your loss. Please collect remaining property or advise on disposition of estate. No one had used the word suicide, but I could read between the lines. My mother had died alone, in this house. They found her in the study, locked from the inside. They said it was quiet, peaceful. But nothing about this house had ever been peaceful. I walked up the creaking steps and pushed the door open. It groaned like a thing waking from sleep. Inside, the air was still. Dust floated in beams of pale winter light. I could hear the ocean through the cracked window panes, but faintly, like a memory fading. My footsteps echoed as I moved down the hallway, trailing my fingers along the wallpaper. It used to be blue. It wasn't anymore. There was something about being back that felt wrong, as if I'd stepped into someone else's life, or maybe I was just stepping back into a version of myself I thought I had buried. In the living room, the fireplace was cold. A photo of me and my little brother Sam still sat on the mantel, untouched. We were both laughing. I was 11, he was 9. That was the summer before he vanished. They said he ran away, but no one ever found a trace. I swallowed the lump rising in my throat and moved on. The study was just as I remembered, lined with bookshelves, desk under the window, that same smell of cedar and old paper. But something felt off. A chill that had nothing to do with the broken radiator. I didn't notice it at first, but after a few minutes of standing there, I heard it. A sound. A soft, rhythmic tapping coming from behind the wall. Tap, tap, tap. I froze. It was faint, but deliberate. 3 taps. Then silence. My breath caught. I stepped closer to the far wall, laying a hand against the faded wallpaper. Nothing. I laughed it off. A mouse. The house settling. Maybe the wind playing tricks. But I remembered something my mother used to say when I was little. The walls remember, Elena. Don't speak too loud at night. I always thought it was one of her strange, writerly sayings, something poetic and unsettling to spice up her mystery novels. Now I wasn't so sure. I turned away from the wall and reached for the desk drawer. Inside, I found her journal. The last page was marked with a ribbon. There was only one line written on it in her familiar, precise handwriting. He never left. He's still inside the wall. My blood ran cold. Who was she talking about? Sam? Or someone else? I didn't sleep that night. I tried. God knows I tried. But even with 2 blankets and a bourbon from the dusty bottle I found in the pantry, the cold still clung to me like a warning. The tapping had stopped. No more sounds from the wall, but something deeper had taken its place. a feeling. Like I wasn't alone. Every floorboard groaned like a whisper. Every gust of wind seemed to carry a voice I couldn't quite make out. Around 3 a.m., I gave up and went back to the study. The journal sat where I left it, its cover cracked, spine worn smooth from years of use. Most of the entries were normal, mundane even. Grocery lists, town gossip, complaints about the weather and the mailman. Then, the tone shifted. March 14th. I heard the breathing again. I thought it was just the pipes, but it's too regular. Too human. March 18th. He's angry now. The lights flicker when I talk about Sam. I think I know where he is. I just can't bring myself to look. March 21st. I found the door. That entry was circled in red ink, and under it, one word in shaky handwriting. Forgive me. I pushed back from the desk, suddenly aware of how loud my heartbeat was. My breath felt tight in my chest. I had always thought my mother was a little eccentric, that her tendency to drift into paranoia was part of her writing process. But this didn't feel like fiction anymore. It felt like a confession. I needed answers, not old memories, not hints and riddles. So I went looking. The house was mostly untouched. Most of the doors still squeaked in that same tired way. The wallpaper still curled at the corners. But there were new things too. Locks where there hadn't been locks before. A boarded-up pantry. A mirror turned to face the wall in the hallway. And then I found it. In the floor beneath the attic stairs. A small trap door. It had been painted over to match the wood, but I noticed the outline. A square, almost invisible unless you were looking for it. I scraped at the edge with a butter knife from the kitchen. After a few minutes, the wood loosened with a groan, and I pulled the panel up. Beneath it, a hole. And stairs. Narrow wooden stairs leading down into pitch black. The air that came up smelled like damp paper and something else, like rust and old blood. I stared down into it for a long time. Then, the voice came. A soft whisper. My name. Elena? It was a child's voice. High. Fragile. I stumbled back, heart hammering. The trapdoor slammed shut behind me. I turned, expecting something to be standing there, but I was alone. Still, I heard it. Elena, come find me. I dropped the knife, ran down the hall, slammed the bedroom door and locked it. And then I cried. Not from fear, not entirely, but because I recognized the voice. It sounded like Sam. Morning came like an apology. The light was thin and gray, filtering through my bedroom window like it didn't really want to be there. My body ached from sleeping curled on the floor. I hadn't meant to. I just hadn't dared get back into the bed. Not after the voice. Not after what I'd heard. I sat there, clutching a cup of lukewarm coffee, staring at the trapdoor across the hall like it might open on its own, like it wanted me to come back. Eventually, curiosity won. It always does. I pried the panel open again, more carefully this time. The stairs descended into darkness, steep and narrow. I grabbed the old lantern from the hallway shelf, half surprised it still worked after all these years, and made my way down. Each step creaked under my weight. Dust swirled around me, thick and choking. The air was colder down here, wet, like the walls were sweating secrets. At the bottom was a small room. Stone walls, no windows, a single wooden chair in the center, facing a blank wall. And scribbled across that wall, hundreds of times in charcoal or something darker, was a single name: Sam. Over and over, big, small, slanted, scrawled like a child's handwriting, frantic and uneven. Some of it looked fresh. I stepped closer, heart in my throat. There was a tape recorder on the chair. Old, dusty, but when I pressed play, it clicked alive. For a second, nothing. Then static. Then a voice. My mother's. If you're hearing this, Alina, then you found it. I'm sorry. I thought I could contain him. I was wrong. It's not just Sam down here. It never was. The house listens. It remembers. And now, it wants you. Click. I stared at the recorder, my hand trembling. Contain who? What did she mean? I turned back to the stairs, every instinct screaming for me to leave, to run, but I paused. There was another door, hidden in the shadows at the back of the room. Small, metal, rusted shut. I touched the handle. It was warm. Suddenly, a sharp whisper filled the room, close to my ear, too close. Don't open it. I spun around. No one. The lantern flickered, dimmed, then went out. Darkness swallowed me. I couldn't breathe. I fumbled up the stairs, scraping my hands and knees, the walls pressing in tighter than they should. The moment I reached the top, the trapdoor slammed shut behind me with a thunderous bang, nearly catching my foot. I collapsed on the floor, gasping, drenched in sweat. I was not alone in this house. And whatever was behind that second door, it didn't want to stay hidden much longer. I didn't go back down that day. Instead, I walked the length of every hallway upstairs, like I was retracing the outlines of an old wound. The house felt alive now, aware. The groans of old timber, the way the shadows pooled in corners too dark for midday light, none of it felt random anymore. And always, always, that sense of being watched. Not by someone, but by something. I found myself back in the study. It felt different in daylight, but not safer. There was a tightness in my chest I couldn't explain, like something was waiting for me to breathe wrong. I sat at the desk and opened the journal again. Near the back, tucked between two torn pages, I found something new. A folded envelope, brittle with age. On the front, in my mother's handwriting, Elena, when you're ready. My throat went dry. I opened it. Inside were several small notes, each written on yellowed scraps of paper. They looked like pieces torn from the margins of books or old manuscripts. And they weren't letters to me. They were to Sam. Each one began the same. I'm sorry. One read, I should have believed you about the tapping. I thought it was grief. I thought you were dreaming. Another, I locked the pantry because I heard him breathing through the flour sacks. And the last, you were right about the voice. It wasn't in your head. It was in the house. It's always been in the house. The words blurred in my vision as tears stung my eyes. She had known. All this time, she'd known something was wrong, that Sam wasn't crazy, that maybe he hadn't run away. I leaned back, suddenly dizzy. My hand brushed the wall behind the desk, and I froze. There was a vibration, faint, like a slow heartbeat inside the wood. I pressed my ear to the paneling. A whisper, barely audible. A name. Elena. It was different this time. It wasn't pleading. It was angry. I scrambled away from the wall, heart racing, knocking over the chair behind me. Something hit back from the other side. 1, 2, 3 hard thuds, like fists pounding to get out. The desk drawer slid open on its own. Inside, tucked beneath an old photo of my mother and a man I didn't recognize, was a key. It was black, ornate, cold as ice, and I knew, without being told, exactly what it unlocked. That rusted metal door beneath the house, the one I swore I wouldn't open. The key burned in my palm. Not literally, but that's how it felt, like it carried heat from someplace it shouldn't, like it knew where it wanted to go. I waited until nightfall. Maybe that was a mistake, but the house felt quieter in the dark. Not calmer, just quieter, like it was holding its breath too. I crept down the attic stairs, lantern in one hand, key in the other. My footsteps seemed too loud, the kind of loud that makes you wonder if something else is listening. The trap door groaned open again. This time I didn't hesitate. I descended. The room hadn't changed. Still stone, still cold, still scribbled with Sam's name. The recorder lay silent on the chair now, like it had already said all it needed to. I didn't look at it. I went straight for the door. It looked older than the rest of the house. Iron bands bolted into warped wood, hinges crusted with rust and time. The smell was stronger here, damp, musty, and tinged with metal. I inserted the key. It fit perfectly. A heavy click, then silence. I pulled the door open. It wasn't a room. It was a corridor. Narrow, cramped. The walls were lined with something soft. Fabric? No. Padded. And the further I stepped in, the more I realized what it was. A soundproof tunnel. There were scratch marks on the catting, fingernail gouges, some stained dark brown. My breath caught in my throat. This wasn't a secret room. It was a holding place. The tunnel led to another chamber, small, windowless, filled with rows of audio reels stacked high along the walls. A rusted microphone stood in the center, surrounded by wires leading into the walls like roots. There were words etched into the wall in jagged lettering. He hears you when you remember. I didn't understand until I saw the tapes. Each one was labeled, carefully, obsessively. Samuel Marsh, Session 3. Daniel H., Session 1. Unknown, Session 6. Elena Marsh, Session 0. My stomach turned. My name. My session. I pulled the tape labeled Elena Marsh, Session 0, and held it up to the lantern light. There was a note stuck to the back. She doesn't know he ever spoke to her. He was in the walls even then. I stumbled back, the reel slipping from my fingers, clattering on the floor. Voices started humming from the tapes. Not through speakers, not from machines, just leaking from the magnetic reels like trapped ghosts whispering through old static. Elena. 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 They chanted my name in different tones, a chorus of the past, some pleading, some screaming, some laughing. I clapped my hands over my ears, but it didn't stop. The walls pulsed. Then I heard the one voice that silenced them all. Sam. He sounded like he was right beside me. Don't let him out. slammed the trapdoor shut. I sat on it, panting. Then, quiet, but not peace. The house had changed. The wallpaper along the walls was wet. I touched it. My fingers came away red. I stumbled backward, down the hall, past the photos, past my old room. And then I heard it again, my mother's voice, coming not from the study, not from the tapes, but from inside my head. No, not inside my head, inside the walls. He's not a man. He was never a man. He listens to grief. He feeds on memory. And once you let yourself remember, he grows stronger. I reached the end of the hall, my parents' bedroom. I had never gone inside since I returned. Now, the door was open. A single light flickered overhead. And on the bed, carefully laid out like an offering, was a photo album. I stepped in, my hands trembled as I opened it. Photos of me, Sam, my mother. But some were wrong. Photos I didn't remember taking. Photos of me sleeping. Me as a teenager, sitting at a desk, here, in this house, writing in a notebook I didn't recognize. One photo showed me sitting in the soundproof room, a reel spinning behind me. My heart stopped. I dropped the album and staggered back. And then, a whisper, right beside my ear. He didn't make you forget. You chose to forget. I turned and saw a mirror beside the door, but the woman in the mirror wasn't me. Not quite. Same face, but her eyes were hollow. And behind her, behind me, stood a tall, hunched shadow. No face, no features, just outline and movement. I spun around. Nothing. I looked back at the mirror. Now it was empty. But written across the glass in smeared fingerprints. I'm still here. I didn't know how long I stood in that room. Time didn't work right in the Marsh house anymore. The shadows moved on their own. The clocks had all stopped, but the house kept ticking. Heartbeat in the walls, whispers under the floor. I wanted to run, leave everything. But deep down, I knew it was too late. I had remembered, and that meant he was real now. I walked back into the hallway. The walls breathed with me. Every picture frame had turned itself inward. Every mirror now showed not reflections, but doorways, flickering, waiting. I went to the study, needing answers. The journal was still there, only now it had grown heavier, fatter, more pages than before. I flipped to the end. One last entry, written in a different hand. It was mine. You made the deal. You gave Sam to him so he'd take the memories instead. But you broke the seal. You remembered. Now you have to finish what you started. I dropped the book. No, I said out loud. I didn't. But then it hit me. I had been here before. Not just as a child, as an adult. Years ago. I had come back after college. Sam had called me, or at least I thought he had. But when I arrived, there was no one. Just the house and the voice in the wall. And after that, nothing. Blackness. I had forgotten the entire summer. It wasn't grief that kept me away. It was guilt. I ran to the basement. The trap door was already open. This time, the soundproof tunnel didn't resist me. The padding was torn now, as if something had clawed its way through. The microphone room was glowing faintly from within. I stepped inside. The reels were spinning, dozens of them, all at once, emitting sound, words, memories, not just mine. Children, mothers, fathers, screaming, whispering, singing lullabies in broken voices. In the center of the room stood the figure. He wasn't hunched anymore. He stood tall now, broad, wearing what looked like a coat stitched from wallpaper and shadows. No face, but I felt the grin. He turned toward me, even without eyes. And in that voice I'd tried to forget, the one I now knew had whispered in my dreams for years, he spoke. You came back. You remembered. Now, choose. Behind him, a second door opened, wooden, cracked, and glowing from within. Inside stood Sam, eyes wide, still 9 years old, frozen in the same summer clothes he wore the day he vanished. Elena, he said softly, you promised you'd come. My knees buckled. I looked between them, Sam and him, and I understood. This was the trade. One soul to hold the memories, or one to forget forever. Keep Sam, and the thing walks free. Return Sam, and the thing stays sealed, but inside me. He stepped closer. The voice coiled around my head like smoke. You can forget again. Forget it all. The pain, the guilt. I'll take it. I'll wear it. I'll be you, if you let me. Or you can remember and carry me forever.
I stared at him, at Sam, bathed in flickering light, innocent, untouched by time. And at him, the thing in the coat of shadows and memory, taller than the ceiling should allow, breathing with a sound like turning pages and gasping lungs. My heart split in two. Sam, I whispered, stepping toward the doorway. I'm sorry. I should have come sooner. You did, he said, voice calm. You just didn't stay. A wave of cold washed over me. The truth sharpened, brutal and clear. I had come back before. I had made the deal. I had let the house take the memories, lock them away, in reels, in walls, in whispers, because the pain of losing Sam was too much. And in exchange, he got to stay, just a little, just enough, in my bones, in my dreams, in stories I never remembered writing. I had tried to forget the monster, but monsters thrive in silence, and memory is where they hide best. He stepped forward now. I could see the seams in his coat, stitched from old birthday cards, torn notebook pages, water-damaged photographs. My life sewn into his skin. Time to choose, he hissed, again. The weight of it nearly crushed me. Forget again and lose Sam. Or take him into me, lock him inside my own mind, and let Sam, though, free? The answer wasn't hard, but it hurt. I turned to Sam. "I love you," I said, "and I remember you. I remember everything now." He smiled. One tear rolled down his cheek. He stepped back into the light, and the doorway behind him began to close, pulsing like a heartbeat slowing down. "No," the voice snarled, "you don't get to." "I do," I said. I opened my arms. "Take it, take me, but you stay here." He screamed, not in anger, but in fear, because I wasn't running. I knew him now. I wasn't a frightened child anymore. I was the one who remembered. He surged forward, smoke, claws of paper, screams of every voice that ever whispered through the house, and I took him in. The pain was unimaginable, like swallowing fire made of grief. My knees buckled, my mind split open. But I held on. I thought of Sam's laugh. I thought of my mother's eyes when she was still alive. I thought of myself, alone, flawed, wounded, but free. And then, silence. When I opened my eyes, I was lying in the study. Morning light poured through the cracked windows. The journal was gone. The reels, the tunnel, the padded walls, gone. But the key was still in my hand. And in the photo on the desk, Sam was smiling. Older now, a teenager. He had grown up. Outside, I heard the town waking. Gulls crying. Waves crashing. No whispers. No breathing in the walls. Just the house, finally empty. Or almost. Because deep inside me, in the corners of my mind where shadows gather, he sleeps, waiting. But I remember. And as long as I remember, he stays sealed.